Cam Ward to the Tennessee Titans with the first overall pick is a B- in my book. Why? You pass on a generational talent like Travis Hunter. That's one thing that the Titans said they wouldn't do. They would not pass on a generational talent for a quarterback. That's exactly what they did. I like Cam Ward. I don't love Cam Ward. He has to be one of those quarterbacks that you plug and play right away for this to be a great pick. I'm not sure he is that guy, so I give it a B-. The Jacksonville Jaguars made the boldest move of the draft, going up to the number 2 spot from number 5 in a trade with the Cleveland Browns to get Travis Hunter, the best player in the draft, a two-way player. It makes sense. The Jaguars haven't been bold in their history. This is one of the boldest moves in this draft, and I love it. Travis Hunter is a star. He's the cleanest, best player in this entire draft. Why not go up and get him and team him with Brian Thomas? Boy, they're going to be tough to defend. As for the Browns, I understand it. They're trying to build for the future. They don't love the quarterbacks in this draft. They can get their quarterback next year. They have a lot of picks. They added another first-round pick next year. They added a number 2 this year. I like what the Browns did here, but I really love what the Jaguars did, making the move to go get Travis Hunter. The Giants passed on a quarterback at number 3 to take the best pass rusher in this class, Abdul from Penn State. When the Giants won Super Bowls, what did they do? They rushed the passer, and they could do it from a variety of different spots. That's what Carter will do for them. He'll give them a guy they can move around, put him at the end, put him lined up, standing up. He can do so many different things. They can get their quarterback later in this draft, or they can get their quarterback next year. For now, the right move was to get Abdul Carter. I give that grade an A. The Patriots select LSU tackle Will Campbell. Look, I get it. When you have a young quarterback and you have a bad offensive line, you have to try and protect his blind side. Will Campbell will be a left tackle. I look at him more as a guard. I think he could be a star guard, but for now, I think the Patriots will play him at left tackle. I don't love this pick. I like it, so I give it a B-. The Cleveland Browns drop down from number 2 to number 5 and end up picking Michigan defensive tackle Mason Graham. I like Mason Graham, but the more I watched him, the more concern I had. He's not a big guy. He's not a power guy. I get it. The Browns need help on the interior of their defensive line. They have to give help to Myles Garrett. But I'm not sure Mason Graham is going to be a star defensive tackle. He's smallish, and that concerns me. I give this a C+. The Las Vegas Raiders select running back Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State. Look, he's the 3rd best player in this draft. He's also a running back, so it's hard for me to justify taking a running back high in the draft normally. But I love this kid. He is a special player. I get it. Pete Carroll wants to run the football. That's what he did in Seattle. That's what he will do with the Vegas Raiders. I like the pick. Give it a B+. The New York Jets needed an upgrade on their offensive line, and they feel they did that by drafting Armand Membou from Missouri. Look, Membou's a good player, but he's a young player and he's raw. He's going to take a little time, I think, to establish himself as one of the best right tackles in the league. I preferred Kelvin, but they decided to go with Membou, who is a young, rising player. It's just that he's a little raw and needs to do a better job of finishing his blocks. B-. The Carolina Panthers need to get receiver help, and they did. They ended up getting McMillan in the first round from Arizona. I like McMillan, but there's some concern for me. He doesn't run that well. If you look at the 40 times of guys like him over the course of the draft history, they've struggled at times. So I'm a little bit concerned about his separation. He's great on the 50-50 balls. He's got great hands, and he runs good routes. But does he run by people? That's my concern, so I give this a C. The New Orleans Saints passed on taking a quarterback at number 9 to take big offensive tackle Kelvin from the University of Texas. I love Banks. I think Banks is one of those guys you can plug and play at right tackle. You could play him at left tackle, and I think you could slide him inside the guard. In fact, I think he's a better prospect than Armand Membou, who just went to the New York Jets. So if you look at this pick, good, sound football pick. Not glitzy, not glamorous, but I like it. I give it a B+. Ben Johnson loves tight ends who can catch the football down the field. He had Sam Laporta with the Detroit Lions. Well, now he has his own guy. Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan, is the pick at number 10 for the Chicago Bears. I love this move. He was my top-rated tight end. He's a guy who can catch a ton of passes. Look, he's not a great inline blocker. He might not be the most complete tight end in this draft class, but he's the best pass-catching tight end. Ben Johnson will love him. Love this move. A is the grade. The San Francisco 49ers had to get help for their defensive line. Nick Bosa needed it. They could have gone inside, but they decided to go outside. Mykel Williams from Georgia. In 2024, he played hurt and didn't play as well as he did in 2023, but he's a big power end who gives him a nice bookend to go with Nick Bosa. I like the pick. If he gets to his 2023 form, I'll really like the pick. I give it a B. The Dallas Cowboys are drafting offensive guard Tyler Booker from Alabama. When you watch his tape, you see an overpowering, strong guy at the point of attack who can dominate defensive linemen. The concern is athletic ability. He doesn't run very well. He had a bad workout, and he doesn't get down the field all that well, so there is a concern. But in the Cowboys scheme, I think he works. My only question is why not receiver here? I probably would have taken a receiver in this spot. They opt for the offensive lineman. I give it a B-. You take one look at the Miami Dolphins depth chart, and they really needed to get a defensive tackle, so they did. They got Michigan's Kenneth Grant in the first round. I love Grant. When you watch his tape playing next to Mason Graham, he was every bit as good as him. More power, stronger at the point of attack. I think the Miami Dolphins got exactly what they needed in Grant, a guy who can play next to Zach Sealer and a guy who can really stop the run. I like this pick. B+. The Colts have been looking for a tight end seemingly since Dallas Clark, and that's a long time ago. Well, they got one. They draft Tyler Warren out of Penn State in the first round. I like Warren. He's a complete tight end. He can block. You can do a lot of things. Penn State moved him all over the place. The best thing for a young quarterback or any quarterback is to have a threat in the middle of the field at the tight end position. The Colts haven't had it in a long time. They have it now. I give this move a B. Jalon Walker to the Atlanta Falcons is a great value pick. Walker was believed to be a top 10 pick, and here he is sliding to number 15. Walker will help upgrade a pass rush that badly needs it. They've been trying to upgrade that for a long, long time in Atlanta. Walker can do that. There were some injury concerns from some teams about Walker. Maybe that's why he slid, but the value is there. I like this pick. I give it a B+. The Arizona Cardinals needed to get better on the down front of their defensive line, and they did that by taking Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. I like Nolan. The one thing that lacks is consistency, and there's been some talk about being more dedicated to the craft. If he can do that, and Calais Campbell's a guy who is there and can help mold him and teach him how to be a professional, Walter Nolan has a chance to be a really good player. I give this a B. The Cincinnati Bengals clearly needed edge help, and they addressed that in the first round of the draft by taking Texas A&M's Shemar Stewart. I like Stewart. I think he's got a lot of athletic ability. Boy, is he raw. And the football instincts just aren't there. It might take him some time to learn how to play defensive end in the National Football League. The talent is there, the skills are there, but the tendency to not be smooth in what he does on the football field definitely shows up. I don't love this pick. I give it a C. The Seattle Seahawks badly needed help on their offensive line, and they addressed it in the first round by taking North Dakota State's Gray Zabel. He can play all three positions. He's played tackle, he's played guard, and some people think he can play center. Seattle's offensive line was a mess last year. He will certainly help upgrade that. I give this a B. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers surprised a lot of people by not going defense in the first round and taking Ohio State receiver Emeka Egbuka. Look, I like him as a receiver. I think he's a great player. I like him in terms of what he does from a professional standpoint. The scouts say he's one of the most professional guys they've ever dealt with. But they also need defensive help in Tampa. Corner, pass rusher. So I'm surprised that they went on this side of the ball. I like the move to add to a receiver group that has Chris Godwin coming off an injury and Mike Evans getting old. But defense would have been my pick. I give it a B-. So you expected the Denver Broncos to take a running back? Not so fast. They decided to go defensive back and take Jahdae Barron from the University of Texas. Barron played outside corner at Texas, but I think he can do a lot of things. I think he'll slide inside and play the nickel. He can also play some safety. He's one of those versatile defensive backs that teams love to have. It's a good, solid pick, surprising a little bit in terms of not going offense, but you know what they want to do. They want to build up that defense in Denver. I give this a B-. The Pittsburgh Steelers didn't take a quarterback. They do what they normally do. They draft big people. They drafted Derek Harmon out of Oregon in the first round. Look, this is who they are. They replenish their offensive and defensive lines. Age has crept in on the defensive side of the ball in terms of their line, and they needed to get a young player. Harmon's a good player. He did have some injury concerns, but he's a good player. It makes sense. It works for who they are. They can always sign Aaron Rodgers or get a quarterback later in the draft. For now, it's Derek Harmon, and I give it a B-. Jim Harbaugh loves to run the football. So what do? You build the offensive line, which they did a year ago, and then you get yourself a back, which they did in the first round. Omarion Hampton, the running back from North Carolina. He will be an instant starter on their offense. They lacked big playability last year from the running back position. Harbaugh loves to run the football. Hampton can do that. He does need to improve in some areas, particularly pass protection. But I'll tell you what, he can take the ball and go the distance. The Chargers need that. Jim Harbaugh loves that. I give it a B, even if it is a back in the first round. The Green Bay Packers picked a wide receiver in the first round. Say it again. The Green Bay Packers picked a wide receiver in the first round. First time since 2002, Javon Walker. Well, this time they get Matthew Golden, the flyer out of the University of Texas. I love this pick. He is my number 2 wide receiver behind Travis Hunter, and he can fly. Look, the Packers have injury issues at wide receiver, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, so why not add another weapon to the offense? Jordan Love will love this kid. He can flat out fly. I give this an A. The Minnesota Vikings have had problems on the interior of their offensive line in recent years. They haven't been big enough. Well, they're big enough now. They just drafted Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. He played guard and tackle for the Buckeyes, but the Vikings view him as a guard. He's a power player. The scouts I talked to loved his demeanor. He was a pro's pro. He will step in and be an immediate starter and upgrade their offensive line. I like the pick. I give it a B. Quarterback desperation is a strange phenomenon in the National Football League, and we watched it play out when the New York Giants traded back into the first round to take Jackson Dart, the quarterback out of Ole Miss. Dart is a raw quarterback who will take some time to translate his skills to the NFL level. The offense is so much different than what he ran at Ole Miss. I do like him, but why not wait until the second round and get a quarterback? Maybe even wait to get him. Why trade back into the first round? I don't like this move by the Giants. I give it a C-. James Pierce, the pass rusher from Tennessee, was a top 10 talent in my book. He did have some off-the-field problems which might have drove his stock down. But the Atlanta Falcons made a bold move. After getting Jalon Walker earlier in the draft, they come back into the first round to get Pierce. That's a great move. Look, they gave up a lot. They give up a first-round pick next year. But to get a guy who can be an elite pass rusher, it makes sense to do something like that. With Walker and Pierce now capable of rushing the quarterback from the edges, look out for that Atlanta defense. I like the move. I gave it a B+. When it comes to picking safeties in the draft, the Baltimore Ravens have been pretty good at it. Well, they're trying it again. They drafted Malachi Starks, the safety from Georgia, in the first round. He's a rangy safety, probably the top safety in this draft. The guy can go sideline to sideline. He can actually play some corner as well. It's a good, solid pick, but why not defensive pass rush? They have pass rush issues. They have 3 guys with expiring contracts. I probably would have went in that direction, but I do like Starks as a player, so I'll give it a B. The Detroit Lions needed help on their defensive line, but I thought they would go edge. Instead, they went on the interior with Mykel Williams from Ohio State. He's a good player. A lot of scouts throughout the process kept telling me, you got to keep watching more and more of him. And the more you did, the more you liked. He can push the pocket, which they need. But again, edge might have been more of a priority for me. I get it, though, so I give it a C+. When you have a young quarterback, the best thing to do is build the offensive line in front of him, and that's what the Commanders are doing and continue to do so by drafting Josh Connerly, the tackle out of Oregon, in the first round. He can play tackle, but I also think he can slide inside the guard. So there is some position flexibility there. I like the pick. It might take him a little time to develop. He's a young, rising player, but it makes sense for the long term. You draft to develop in front of your quarterback, and that's what Josh Connerly is for the Washington Commanders. I give them a B-. Kentucky's Maxwell Hairston might be one of my favorite players in the entire draft. I love the Buffalo Bills taking him in the first round. They have a major need at corner. Hairston will step in right away and start. He's an aggressive corner. He can play man. I know the Bills don't play a ton of him, but he can do it. I love this pick. It's one of my favorite in the entire draft. I give it an A. The Philadelphia Eagles pick linebacker Jihad Campbell in the first round. Why? Nakobe Dean is coming off a torn patella tendon. So why not get a young, fast linebacker who can spot in until he's ready, or even if he is ready, take over that position. Campbell has a shoulder injury that dropped him down a little bit, but boy, can he run. It makes a lot of sense. You pair him with Zach Bond. The Eagles, they're great at replacing players, particularly if guy's injured or a guy leaves, and that's what Howie Roseman does. He did a great job here. I give this a B. I love what the Kansas City Chiefs did with the final pick of the first round. They get Josh Simmons, the tackle from Ohio State. He is the best offensive tackle in this class when healthy, and that's the key. He's coming off a torn patella tendon, suffered last year against Oregon. But boy, I'll tell you what, they won't be forced to rush him. They have a guy that can play at left tackle in Jalon Moore, so he can be patient and they can get him ready for the following season if need be. I love Josh Simmons. What a great athlete. What a great pick. Kansas City Chiefs nailed it. A+.